Have you ever seen this situation before? One day you pick up your cordless drill, ready to finish a few tasks around your workshop or favorite DIY corner. Everything is set. The drill bit is in place, the material is ready, and you're in the mood to get things done. Then you pull the trigger, and nothing happens. The drill just sits there, quiet as if it suddenly decided to take the day off. You remove the battery, snap it back in, maybe give it a little shake, hoping some small miracle will wake it up. But no, your trusty spare battery has suddenly developed an attitude and refuses to cooperate. After a bit of tinkering and scratching your head, you eventually discover the more frustrating part. When you try to charge it, the battery doesn't even recognize the charger anymore. To take a closer look, my first thought is to grab a voltage meter and check the battery. At the very least, it should tell us whether there's still a little bit of power left inside. This quick test isn't meant to diagnose everything right away, but it does give us a useful clue. Sometimes the problem isn't actually the battery at all. It could be the dedicated charger acting up. So measuring the voltage first is a sensible step, just to figure out whether the real issue comes from the charger or from the battery itself. And the result is nothing at all. The meter barely moves, as if there isn't a trace of power left inside the battery. At this point, it's probably fair to admit the unfortunate truth. This battery pack is truly dead. But if you're dealing with the same situation, don't worry just yet. In the DIY world, problems that seem complicated at first often turn out to have surprisingly simple solutions. And luckily, I've come up with an idea that might help fix this issue. The first step is to remove the outer plastic casing of the spare battery pack, so we can take a look at what's going on inside. Sometimes just opening it up and having a quick inspection can already reveal the problem. Maybe a loose connection, a poor contact point, or simply signs that the battery cells inside have started to wear out. Although the dust and small patches of rust on the metal components probably aren't the main reason the battery pack stopped working, they still deserve a proper cleaning. Since the pack is already opened up, it's a good idea to tidy things up a bit, especially the metal contact points, so they can function more reliably. In situations like this, 90% alcohol can be surprisingly useful for cleaning metal parts. It works well at removing dust, grease, and even light surface rust that may have built up on metal contacts. A small amount applied to a cotton pad or soft cloth is usually enough to gently wipe the surface and restore a cleaner metal finish. One of the advantages of 90% alcohol is that it evaporates very quickly. That means it typically doesn't leave moisture behind inside the battery pack, which helps reduce the chance of affecting nearby electronic components. Because of this, 90% alcohol is commonly used in small electronics maintenance as a simple and practical way to clean metal contacts without causing unnecessary trouble for surrounding parts. To clean things a bit more thoroughly, I'll also make use of a piece of fine sandpaper. When rust has started to cling to the metal contacts, lightly sanding the surface can help remove that layer more effectively. The key is to work gently, just enough to bring the metal surface back to a clean shine without sanding too aggressively on the contact points. It may seem a bit strange, because after opening it there's only a little dust and some minor rust with no obvious signs of damage. But if your spare battery isn't working, think back for a moment. Have you ever let the battery drain completely and then leave it in use for a long time before charging it again? That's the real cause. Making a simple tool to help restore a battery that won't accept a charge is actually quite easy. The materials are very basic. 2 short pieces of wire, a bolt and nut set, and a few metal washers. To avoid confusing the positive and negative terminals, which could cause a short circuit, I prepared 2 wires in different colors, so they're easy to tell apart. All of these materials are common and can easily be found at most electrical supply stores. This is a metal washer. For those who may not be familiar with it, it's a small, thin metal ring with a hole in the center, commonly used together with bolts and nuts to distribute pressure more evenly and keep parts securely in place. In many simple repair or assembly situations, a metal washer also helps create a stable contact surface between metal components. To wake up a battery pack that has gone into a deep sleep state, the power source can come from another battery pack, since it provides a fairly suitable voltage for this purpose. To make sure the power source is working properly, you can do a quick test first by connecting it to a small light bulb and checking whether it lights up. If the bulb lights normally, it means the power source is functioning well, which serves as a simple and practical check before proceeding. Remember to connect the terminals correctly. The positive terminal of one battery should connect to the positive terminal of the other, and the negative terminal should connect to the matching negative terminal. Doing it this way helps prevent a short circuit and keeps the process safer. One more thing worth mentioning. It's a good idea to check the battery about every 15 minutes. Doing these periodic checks helps you notice any unusual signs early and reduces the risk of damaging the battery cells inside. Alright, it looks like my battery pack has been fully restored. Now I'll put the casing back together and reassemble everything so it can be used normally again. Even though the battery has started accepting a charge again, we still need to make sure it works reliably. So once it's fully charged, I'll test it right away to see whether the battery performs normally. And just like that, a battery that seemed completely dead is working again. If you found this helpful, don't forget to follow for more useful DIY tips.